I am actually driving to work at the moment, so unfortunately, you're not going to be able to see me, and I'm not going to put on a light. But you can listen to the audio. What I have to say is pretty important. So yesterday, I had a situation at work, a hands-on situation, and it brought to the surface a lot of realities of hands-on events that I don't think people are being realistic about in the security industry, right? There's a misconception and there's a thought that things like judo, jiu-jitsu, these ground fighting styles, that they are I don't want to say that they're the end all be all, but it doesn't take into account a lot of variables, okay? So unfortunately, in situations like this, I can't go into great detail about what happened in the event. But what I can tell you is that in a situation when you do go hands-on with an individual, there's certain things that are important and certain things that are, what's another word that I'm looking for? Certain things that are so instrumental to you being successful in that encounter that you never think of. The first thing would be grip strength. Your grip strength has to be on point. When you get into a hands-on encounter and you're, quote unquote, wrestling with someone, your ability to maintain control of that person is so important. And you got to think about this in any situation where you've had to get to that point. That person should be, if you're going hands-on with someone, that person should be a substantial threat to you, your client, or a third party, right? So if that's the case and you're having to put your hands on this person, your ability to maintain control of that person largely comes down to your grip strength. If you have really weak grip strength, you're going to have issues. I think that it really opened up, I don't want to say gaps in my training, but we think about training to be stronger. We think about training to be competent when we're on the ground or competent when we're on our feet, but it's really small, nuanced things that make all the difference in your success in a hands-on event. No pun intended, right? But definitely grip strength is so important. The second thing that I thought about, and I'll kind of tie all this together, guys. Let me just get this out real quick, okay? Because this is difficult to explain what I want to explain while I'm driving, first thing in the morning, and then also not trying to give a lot of details as to what happened. The second thing is lateral movement. So lateral movement is side-to-side movement. If you watch a lot of hands-on events or fights between security or law enforcement and the subject, those wrestling interactions, they move side to side. When you're tussling with someone and you're trying to either A, move them from one place to another, or B, get them from a standing position to a prone position, you end up moving side to side. And for security guards specifically, I think one of the biggest things that we have to worry about is that we stand or we sit. For the most part, a lot of us stand or sit in one place for a long time. Like if your job is to stand at a door, or your job is to stand at a post, your job is to sit at a desk and check people in. Once you get into that situation where you're actually in that tussle or whatever, for lack of better words, that lateral movement can be an issue. I can see where people can tear an ACL, pop an MCL, roll a knee, roll an ankle. This is where having proper footwear is so important. You can't have low tops, you can't have sneakers, you can't have those dress shoes. You need a solid boot that's going to protect your ankles when you're utilizing that lateral movement. You need to make sure that you have good footing. Speaking of which, the next biggest thing is your cardio. I think that we take for granted the other person's desire to either A, not be removed, B, not be detained, or C, not go to jail. Those are great motivating factors. And we haven't even talked about like someone being high or someone just being, mentally challenged out of their mind, right? But we don't take into account the other person's, I don't want to say will to live, but like for lack of a better term, we don't take into account the other person's will to live. When we discuss hands-on situations, when we discuss getting into, a back and forth situation, we rarely talk about the desire of the other person. Guys, the person that we dealt with yesterday, all of the factors that I'm talking about came into play. Now, I feel like I'm a pretty strong individual. I feel like I am pretty capable of handling myself and protecting myself. But when I got this person out of the store, and when I had handled this person with all of the issues that I'm talking about being a factor, okay? When the police responded, and they responded with 3 officers, all 3 officers interacting with this person struggled for about a minute and a half. 3 trained, large police officers struggled. First off, shout out to the Portland Police Bureau for their quick response. I have been so critical of not just, police in general, but definitely the police in Portland. I think a lot of the issues that, Portland has dealt with in terms of the police department, it hasn't been the officer's fault. It's been the politician's fault. It's been the leadership's fault. But all that aside, these guys showed up within 3 minutes. 2 of the 4 cops that showed up are guys that I really highly respect. And I think it's because of that respect, and it's because of that relationship that I've built with 2 of them, that they showed up so quick. In fact, one of the officers was like, yeah, I heard the location. I got over here as fast as I could. So that's a completely different conversation that I'm going to have tomorrow in depth about developing that relationship with law enforcement officers and doing a big shout out to the Portland Police Bureau. But be that as it may, 3 large police officers struggled for about a minute and a half to detain this person. It took a 4th officer to come in before they were able to gain compliance. And then after gaining compliance, trying to get this person into the squad car, there had to be, let's say, other motivating factors to get him to go into the vehicle. So my ability to deal with this person and handle this person in the way that I did, and I was successful in doing that, although each one of these things that I'm talking about were a factor in the back of my mind, I'm making a mental note. Everything that I'm telling you, I'm not telling you that I gassed out. I'm not telling you that I lost control of the person. I'm not telling you that I wasn't able to move laterally. I'm not telling you that I had an issue in terms of controlling this subject. I did not. I did not. But each and every one of those issues, as I'm going through it, I'm thinking to myself, yep, that's something I got to talk about. Yep, that's something that needs to be addressed. We always talk about, man, get in jiu-jitsu, man, get in jiu-jitsu. Well, when you're involved in a situation as a security guard, and I had an opportunity, there was a moment where I'm thinking to myself, mount this person, take his back, and gain control. But then the question is, then what? We talk a lot about if you are in a situation where you go hands-on, do you handcuff this person? I put up a question in the community tab where I was like, if you handcuff someone and the police are 30 minutes away, what are you going to do? Guys, the person that we're dealing with was out of his mind. So in a situation where you actually do legally, morally, ethically, by policy, have the ability to legitimately handcuff this person, right? All questions about whether or not you can handcuff this person, that's off the table. You're able to do it. In this circumstance that we're talking about, you as a security officer are able to handcuff this person. Okay, you handcuff him. Now what? If a person is not compliant once you've put them in handcuffs, now you've put yourself in a completely different set of circumstances. If you're able to control that subject, you're able to get the handcuffs on that subject, and that person continues to be combative, they continue to be unhinged. You as a security officer, do you have the training to be able to deal with that? What if the cops are 30 minutes away? Legally, can you have this person as a security guard where someone has done something, let's say, you know, is a misdemeanor assault or a battery or, you know, shoplifting, whatever it is. Once you've applied those handcuffs, do you have the legal authority to leave someone in handcuffs for 45 minutes if that's what it takes? What if that person is so unhinged that they wrestle themselves away from you while in handcuffs? It happens because it happens to law enforcement officers. And what if that person runs into traffic, hands behind their back? Like the unintended consequences of making that detainment. That is something that is such an important aspect of what we do, and it's never, ever, ever discussed. There's so much more that goes into these situations, these hands-on situations, guys, as security guards. We're talking about surface level shit. When we're talking about any technique that you're going to employ, we're talking about any situation, once your hands have gotten on this person, if you have the right to do it, if you're legally able to do it, what technique to employ. That's not how these situations work out. It's not. They don't go A, B, C, D. They go A, Z, F. I guarantee you the one time that your pepper spray is going to fail, it's not going to be when you sit on it in your car. Nope, your pepper spray is going to go off. The one time your pepper spray fails is not going to be when your 4-year-old kid grabs it and decides to push down the button. Nope, it's going to go off. When your pepper spray fails, it's going to be when you need it the most. That's why I'm not a huge fan of civilians and women carrying pepper spray. The one time that you need it is the time that it doesn't work, or it doesn't come out right, or it's caked up, right? Same thing with tasers. Your battery's dead. That day, your battery decides to die. That day, your cartridge decides to fall out, right? These situations are dynamic and they're fluid. And a lot of us, we're not putting enough thought into how long the fight is going to last. Just because you're big and you're strong and you're able to control someone does not mean that the fight is over in their eyes. You might be in for a longer ride than you think. The police officers, when they got there, were in for a longer ride. Now, they sent more police officers. But at the end of that encounter with this subject, they were gassed. These are trained police officers. They were gassed out. And this wasn't a huge, giant person. This is one person with his frontal cortex completely turned off, apparently, and he's just going off lizard brain. And lizard brain makes people strong as hell. I don't know. We're kind of at a point where, like, what I'm talking about this morning is more of a stream of consciousness. Like, I will do a more focused, in-depth breakdown of these topics tomorrow on a live stream, but I wanted to get this out to you guys. I would say, like, just off the top, if I'm just spitting here off the top, off the dome, when you're at work, if you're working today, you're working tonight, the next time that you're going to work, find some way to start moving. Just start moving more. We are so sedentary and we're so stationary, and for a lot of our posts, we don't have the opportunity to really do much. Like, the job, it puts us behind the 8 ball. Man, just standing at a fucking door for all day, or sitting at a desk, and then the second that you have to do something, like, your body's cold, your body is like stationary, you're heavy, you're lethargic, and when it's go time, it's go time. And that person that you're dealing with doesn't give a shit. He's like, nope, it's time to fight. and I'm ready, and I'm here, and I ain't stopping. So we'll get into more of that tomorrow, a little bit more in depth, a little bit more focused, but start thinking about your grip strength. Start thinking about your lateral movement, man. Get those knees, get those tendons, all that stuff. Get that stuff moving. Watch your footwear, your boots. Make sure your ankles are protected. Make sure you have good soles in case you're moving around, right? Start thinking about that cardio. How long can you go? How long can you go? And however long you can go, just know that might not be long enough. If you're an officer working by yourself and you're in a situation where you go into that hands-on event, you gas out a minute, 2 minutes in, and that guy's ready to go for 10 minutes because he's hopped up on drugs. Well, you can't just say, hey, bud, like, on second thought, let's forget we got into this. It's not how it works. Okay? And then what are the after effects of you going hands-on? Just because you go hands-on and you're able to quote unquote control this person, that doesn't mean that it's over once that has happened. Now what? What do you do with the person once you have control of them? How long can you hold them? What do you do if this person wiggles out and gets away? These are all things to think about. Okay? Okay, let me see here. Morning. Someone says, say my name, please. Elijah. I think it's Elijah. What up? All right, guys. Y'all be safe today, okay? Watch your six. Be careful. Be great.